Welcome to Passion Travel. Explore world street food, captivating vlogs, and inspiring journeys with us. Subscribe to experience adventure in every video. Quiche Lorraine, a classic French dish featuring a savory pastry filled with eggs, cream, and bacon. Recipe for quiche Lorraine along with its ingredients and preparation steps. Ingredients. For the pastry crust: 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 cup cold unsalted butter, cut into small pieces, 1/4 cup ice water. For the filling: 6 slices of bacon, chopped, 1 small onion, finely chopped, 1 1/2 cups shredded Gruyere cheese, or Swiss cheese, 4 large eggs, 1 cup heavy cream, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon ground black pepper, a pinch of nutmeg, optional. Preparation. Prepare the pastry crust. In a mixing bowl, combine the flour and salt. Add the cold butter pieces and use a pastry cutter or your fingers to work the butter into the flour until the mixture resembles coarse crumbs. Gradually add the ice water, a tablespoon at a time, mixing until the dough just comes together. Shape the dough into a disc, wrap it in plastic wrap, and refrigerate for at least 30 minutes. Preheat the oven. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit 190 degrees Celsius. Roll out the pastry. On a floured surface, roll out the chilled pastry dough into a circle large enough to line a 9-inch, 23 centimeters, tart pan or pie dish. Line the tart pan. Carefully transfer the rolled-out dough to the tart pan, pressing it gently into the bottom and up the sides. Trim any excess dough hanging over the edges. Blind bake the crust. Line the pastry crust with parchment paper or aluminum foil, then fill it with pie weights, dried beans, or rice. Bake the crust in the preheated oven for about 15 minutes. Remove the weights and parchment paper/foil, then return the crust to the oven and bake for an additional 5 minutes, or until lightly golden. Remove from the oven and set aside. Prepare the filling. In a skillet over medium heat, cook the chopped bacon until crispy. Remove from the skillet and drain on paper towels. In the same skillet, using the bacon drippings, sauté the chopped onion until softened and translucent. Remove from heat and set aside. In a mixing bowl, whisk together the eggs, heavy cream, salt, pepper, and nutmeg, if using, until well combined. Assemble the quiche. Sprinkle the cooked bacon and sautéed onions evenly over the bottom of the partially baked pastry crust. Sprinkle the shredded Gruyere cheese over the bacon and onions. Pour the egg mixture evenly over the filling ingredients in the crust. Bake the quiche. Place the assembled quiche in the preheated oven and bake for 35 to 40 minutes, or until the filling is set and the top is golden brown. Serve. Allow the quiche Lorraine to cool for a few minutes before slicing and serving. Enjoy warm or at room temperature. Macarons, colorful almond meringue cookies with creamy fillings. Here's a recipe for making classic French macarons. Ingredients. For the macaron shells: 1 cup, 100 g, almond flour. 1 3/4 cups, 200 g, powdered sugar. 3 large egg whites, at room temperature. 1/4 cup, 50 g, granulated sugar. Gel food coloring, optional. For the filling: 1/2 cup, 115 g, unsalted butter, softened. 1 cup, 120 g, powdered sugar. 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. Food coloring, optional. Preparation. Prepare baking sheets. Line 2 baking sheets with parchment paper or silicone baking mats. Prepare almond flour. If your almond flour is not fine enough, you can pulse it with the powdered sugar in a food processor until finely ground. Sift the mixture to remove any large pieces. Whip egg whites. In a clean, dry mixing bowl, beat the egg whites with a hand mixer or stand mixer on medium speed until foamy. Gradually add the granulated sugar while continuing to beat. Increase the speed to high and beat until stiff peaks form and the meringue is glossy. If desired, add gel food coloring during this step. Fold an almond mixture, sift the almond flour and powdered sugar mixture over the whipped egg whites. Gently fold the dry ingredients into the meringue using a spatula until just combined. Be careful not to overmix, as this can deflate the batter. Pipe macaron shells. Transfer the macaron batter to a piping bag fitted with a round tip. Pipe small circles, about 1 inch in diameter, onto the prepared baking sheets, spacing them about 1 inch apart. Tap and rest. Once piped, tap the baking sheets firmly on the counter a few times to release any air bubbles. Let the piped macarons sit at room temperature for 30 minutes to 1 hour, or until a skin forms on the surface and they are no longer sticky to the touch. Preheat oven. While the macarons are resting, preheat your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit 150 degrees Celsius. Bake the macarons in the preheated oven for 15 to 18 minutes, rotating the baking sheets halfway through baking, until the macarons are set and have developed feet, the ruffled edges around the bottom. Cool. Remove the macarons from the oven and let the Tartes Flambées, Alsace's version of pizza, featuring thin crusts topped with crème fraîche, onions, and bacon. Tarte Flambée, also known as Flammkuchen in Alsatian or Flammkuchen in German, is a traditional dish from the Alsace region of France and neighboring areas in Germany. Here's a simple recipe to make this delicious savory tart. Ingredients. For the dough: 1½ cups, 180 g, all-purpose flour. 1/2 teaspoon salt. 1/2 cup, 120 milliliters, warm water. 2 tablespoons olive oil. For the topping: 1 cup, 240 milliliters, crème fraîche or sour cream. 1 large onion, thinly sliced. 6 slices of bacon, thinly sliced. Salt and pepper to taste. Optional, chopped fresh chives or parsley for garnish. Preparation. Prepare the dough. In a mixing bowl, combine the flour and salt. Gradually add the warm water and olive oil, mixing until a smooth dough forms. Knead the dough on a floured surface for a few minutes until it becomes elastic. Shape it into a ball, cover with a clean kitchen towel, and let it rest for about 30 minutes. Preheat the oven. Preheat your oven to 475 degrees Fahrenheit 245 degrees Celsius and place a baking stone or inverted baking sheet on the middle rack. Roll out the dough. Divide the rested dough into 2 equal portions. On a floured surface, roll out each portion of dough into a thin rectangle or circle, about 1/8 inch thick. Prepare the topping. In a small bowl, mix the crème fraîche or sour cream with a pinch of salt and pepper. Spread a thin layer of the crème fraîche mixture evenly over each rolled out dough, leaving a small border around the edges. Add the toppings. Arrange the thinly sliced onions and bacon evenly over the crème fraîche covered dough. Bake. Carefully transfer the topped tarts onto the preheated baking stone or baking sheet. Bake in the preheated oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, or until the edges of the tart are golden brown and the toppings are cooked and slightly crispy. Serve. Remove the tarte flambée from the oven and let it cool slightly. Sprinkle with chopped fresh chives or parsley, if desired. Slice the tart into squares or wedges and serve hot as an appetizer or light meal. Baguettes, freshly baked French baguettes filled with various ingredients like ham, cheese, or salad. Recipe for making baguettes. Ingredients: 500 g, about 4 cups, bread flour. 10 g, about 2 teaspoons, salt. 7 g, about 2¼ teaspoons, active dry yeast. 350 milliliters, about 1½ cups, lukewarm water. Instructions. In a large mixing bowl, combine the bread flour and salt. Make a well in the center. In a separate bowl, dissolve the yeast in the lukewarm water. Let it sit for about 5 minutes until it becomes frothy. Pour the yeast mixture into the well in the flour mixture. Using a wooden spoon or your hands, mix the ingredients until a dough forms. Transfer the dough to a floured surface and knead it for about 10 to 15 minutes until it becomes smooth and elastic. Place the dough in a lightly oiled bowl, cover it with a clean kitchen towel, and let it rise in a warm place for about 1 to 2 hours or until it doubles in size. Once the dough has risen, punch it down to release the air bubbles. Divide the dough into equal portions for the number of baguettes you want to make. Shape each portion into a baguette shape by rolling it out into a long, thin cylinder. Place the shaped baguettes onto a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Using a sharp knife or blade, make 3 to 4 diagonal slashes on the top of each baguette. Cover the baguettes with a clean kitchen towel and let them rise for another 30 to 45 minutes. Preheat your oven to 220 degrees Celsius, about 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the baguettes have risen again, bake them in the preheated oven for 20 to 25 minutes or until they are golden brown and sound hollow when tapped on the bottom. Remove the baguettes from the oven and let them cool on a wire rack before slicing and serving. Pommes Frites, crispy French fries served with a variety of dipping sauces. Recipe for making Pommes Frites, also known as French fries. Ingredients: potatoes, preferably russet or another starchy variety. Vegetable oil, for frying. Salt, to taste. Instructions: peel the potatoes and rinse them under cold water to remove excess starch. Cut the potatoes into thin, even-sized strips, about 1/4 inch thick. You can use a knife or a mandolin slicer for this. Place the cut potatoes in a large bowl of cold water and let them soak for at least 30 minutes, or up to overnight in the refrigerator. This helps remove additional starch and ensures crispy fries. After soaking, drain the potatoes and pat them dry thoroughly with paper towels or a clean kitchen towel. Heat the vegetable oil in a deep fryer or a large, heavy-bottomed pot to 325 degrees Fahrenheit 160 degrees Celsius. Working in batches, carefully add the dried potato strips to the hot oil, making sure not to overcrowd the fryer or pot. Fry for about 3 to 4 minutes, until the potatoes are cooked through but not yet golden. Remove the partially cooked fries from the oil using a slotted spoon or a wire mesh skimmer, and transfer them to a wire rack set over a baking sheet lined with paper towels to drain. Increase the heat of the oil to 375 degrees Fahrenheit 190 degrees Celsius. Once the oil reaches the desired temperature, return the partially cooked fries to the hot oil in batches, frying for an additional 2 to 3 minutes or until they are crispy and golden brown. Again, remove the fries from the oil using a slotted spoon or skimmer, and transfer them to the wire rack to drain any excess oil. Season the hot fries with salt to taste while they are still warm. Serve the Pommes Frites immediately, either on their own or with your favorite dipping sauces, such as ketchup, mayonnaise, or aioli. Moules Frites, steamed mussels served with fries, often accompanied by a creamy sauce. Moules Frites, a beloved Belgian dish, consists of mussels served with French fries. Here's how to prepare it. Ingredients: for the moules: 2 kilograms, about 4.4 pounds, fresh mussels, cleaned and deburred. 2 tablespoons olive oil. 1 onion, finely chopped. 2 cloves garlic, minced. 1 cup dry white wine. 1 cup chicken or vegetable broth. 2 tablespoons unsalted butter. 1/4 cup chopped fresh parsley. Salt and pepper to taste. For the frites, French fries. Potatoes, preferably russet or another starchy variety. Vegetable oil, for frying. Salt, to taste. Instructions: for the moules: heat the olive oil in a large pot over medium heat. Add the chopped onion and garlic and sauté until softened and fragrant, about 2 to 3 minutes. Add the white wine and bring to a simmer. Add the cleaned mussels to the pot and pour in the chicken or vegetable broth. Cover the pot with a lid and cook for about 5 to 7 minutes, shaking the pot occasionally until the mussels have opened. Discard any mussels that haven't opened. Stir in the butter and chopped parsley, and season with salt and pepper to taste. Remove the pot from the heat and ladle the mussels and broth into serving bowls. For the frites: While the mussels are cooking, prepare the French fries. Peel the potatoes and cut them into thin, even-sized strips, about a 1/4 inch thick. Soak the cut potatoes in a bowl of cold water for at least 30 minutes to remove excess starch. Drain and pat dry thoroughly with paper towels. Heat the vegetable oil in a deep fryer or large pot to 325 degrees Fahrenheit 160 degrees Celsius. Working in batches, carefully add the dried potato strips to the hot oil and fry for about 3 to 4 minutes, until they are partially cooked but not yet golden. Remove the partially cooked fries from the oil and drain on a wire rack set over a baking sheet lined with paper towels. Increase the heat of the oil to 375 degrees Fahrenheit 190 degrees Celsius. Return the partially cooked fries to the hot oil in batches and fry for an additional 2 to 3 minutes, until they are crispy and golden brown. Remove the fries from the oil, drain any excess oil, and season with salt to taste. Serve the Moules Frites hot, with the cooked mussels and broth in bowls alongside a generous serving of crispy French fries. Enjoy your delicious Belgian meal. Crêpes, thin pancakes filled with sweet or savory fillings like Nutella, fruit, or cheese. Recipe for making delicious crêpes. Ingredients: 1 cup all-purpose flour, 2 large eggs, 1¼ cups milk, 2 tablespoons melted butter, 1 tablespoon sugar, optional, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla extract, optional, pinch of salt. Instructions: in a large mixing bowl, whisk together the flour, sugar, if using, and salt. In a separate bowl, beat the eggs. Then, gradually whisk in the milk, melted butter, and vanilla extract, if using, until well combined. Slowly pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients, whisking continuously, until you have a smooth batter with no lumps. Let the batter rest for about 15 to 30 minutes at room temperature. This allows the flour to fully hydrate and results in a smoother batter. Heat a non-stick skillet or crêpe pan over medium heat. Lightly grease the pan with butter or cooking spray. Once the pan is hot, pour a small ladleful of batter into the center of the pan. Quickly tilt and swirl the pan to spread the batter evenly into a thin circle. Cook the crêpe for about 1 to 2 minutes, until the edges start to lift slightly and the bottom is lightly golden. Using a spatula, carefully flip the crêpe and cook for another 1 to 2 minutes on the other side, until lightly golden. Transfer the cooked crêpe to a plate and cover with a clean kitchen towel to keep warm. Repeat the process with the remaining batter, greasing the pan as needed. Serve the crêpes warm with your favorite toppings, such as Nutella, fresh fruit, whipped cream, jam, or powdered sugar.